Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Women. On this show, you will learn how to create wealth through real estate the blissful way. That means with very little stress and very little time. We talk about strategies, mindset, heart set, money smarts, resources, and so much more to ensure you're able to create the success you most deeply desire. Now, here's your host, Moneeka Sawyer.
Today, I am so excited to welcome back to the show my friend Ali Boone. It's so fun. It's so fun to call her my friend because we actually met through the podcast, right? But we've just done so much together since then. I just love when she comes back to us. Yay!
I think you've had me back on your show more than anyone else. I'm like, oh, when do we
true.
get to do it again?
I know. Well, the conversations are just so much fun.
Well, it gets dangerous because I'm like, oh God, how long can these things be? I think we get to talking and completely forget the record button is even going. Like, oh, oops.
Ladies are like, yeah, like you just did that right now. Ladies, let me remind you who Ali is. I'll read. She's got a new bio for us. So anyways, formerly an aerospace engineer, Ali Boone is a lifestyle entrepreneur, author, and real estate investor, new author, which is what we're talking about today. After leaving her 9-to-5 to pursue ultimate freedom through entrepreneurship, her company Hipster Investments managed to facilitate over $18 million in real estate transactions in its first 5 years of business. She has a master's degree in both aerospace engineering and spiritual psychology. Ali also teaches flying and can often be found snowboarding or volunteering in prisons. Her ultimate goal is to one day challenge Tim Ferriss to a lifestyle design duel. I love that last line.
I will say I've gotten a little lazy in that pursuit because I'm like, I kind of like sitting on the couch now. So I don't know if that's actually ever going to happen, but we'll see. I figure keep it in there just in case Tim's listening.
I know. And it adds a little spice to the bio. Like it. Not like yours needed more spice, but whatever. So, Ali, you just released another book. I got highlighted in that book, which was totally cool.
I would call it more than highlighted. Like, you played a big part in this book. I'm so excited. I was like, who can I have? I was like, Moneeka. Like, you were literally the first person I thought of, because we'll talk about the book, but I wanted to interview investors because I want to give people like a day in the life of, like, you can read about flipping and wholesaling and all that, but like, what does it actually look like? So I wanted to find really successful investors in their particular strategies and cover, a wide variety of strategies. And I was like, hey girl.
Exactly.
What you doing? And honestly, I think your interview came back like it was so great because you really captured the essence of what I was trying to get at, which is the real life perspective, not using big fancy words or like how-to guides or like, here's how you flip a property, here's how you wholesale, like, the very stoic type of things that everyone reads. Like yours was so obviously like your experience and like the actual things you go through and like in English, like, and I feel like like, and then some of the other interviews, God bless them, I was like, oh gosh, I was like, okay, follow-up questions. It's like one word answers. I was like, yeah.
I'm so glad I made that easy.
Pretty sure yours is even the first one of everyone's, and I think
I'm
it
not
is.
Sure.
I was so excited about it.
Take a look at it.
It was a good one. Everyone should take a look at it. It was good.
You. Yeah. And ladies, actually, you're going to get a free copy of this book. I'm just giving you what is it called? Something alert. Spoiler alert.
Alerting you. Alert.
But anyway, it was really fun. And actually, when I got the book, it was so good, Ali. So
thank you.
Yeah, I love it. So let's start by kind of telling why you even wanted to write the book.
So, I feel like we should have some context. So, here we go.
There it is.
So, if you haven't
for
seen
those of us,
book.
yeah. So, ladies, you know that this show is released on YouTube under Real Estate Investing for Women. It's also on Roku on Real Estate Investing for Women, but with a number 4. And I think you can look it up under Moneeka Sawyer on Roku too. I know you can on YouTube. So if you want to check these shows out on video, that's a great idea. You can check it out of those 2 places. And Ali is now holding up her book for those of you watching or not watching.
So if you're listening and they're like, what are they talking about? So what made me write the book? So, I've been involved in real estate investing since 2011 now. So it's coming up my 10-year anniversary. I didn't even know. And the one thing that, there's all the how-to guides. There's everything we all go through trying to learn real estate investing. It's like how to be a real estate investor. You hit it in Google, all these things pop up. We all go to the guru seminar. We all do the same thing. And over time, I was investing for myself, but I was also working with a lot of other people. And because I work with turnkey rental properties, I was working with a lot of new investors. So over the last 10 years, I guess, well, the book started maybe about 8 years ago, but for all those years, I was seeing so many people trying to get in this industry, and I was seeing so many people either never get into it or get into it and just have, I don't want to say epic failures. That sounds terrifying, but enough of a failure to deter them from coming back. And so as I was watching people, I realized so much of this is a mindset game. And when I think back to Googling how to be a real estate investor, what is the thing that you see? That's all you see are how-to guides. Well, so great. But I have a theory that if your mindset's not correct, there's not a how-to guide in the world that's going to help you. And so, there's a huge, really high percentage rate of failure. It's like entrepreneurship. They say 95% of small businesses fail in their first 5 years or whatever. And I think it's a similar challenge where it's not so much the business itself, it's just that people don't know what they're doing. Because if you think back to when we were all in school, I don't know what they teach now, but none of us learned real estate investing or business, or dear God, we didn't even learn how to do our taxes. We've had to figure all of this stuff out on our own. And that's great. But again, think about when you type that in, all you hear is you need to flip houses, you need to wholesale, you need to do this. And here's the steps to do it. And everyone's like, okay, well, okay, that may work for some people, but there's such a mindset component. Should you be wholesaling or flipping? I don't know. Should you? For me personally, I assumed I would have to be a flipper to be in real estate, but I'd be a terrible flipper. I'd hate it also. And could you have paid me to think I'd end up in turnkey rental properties? No, but it works. And so, I actually titled the book "Not Your How-To Guide to Real Estate Investing" to make it's like a prerequisite, in my opinion, to the how-to guides. Before you can get into the how-to guides, let's take a step back and really look at which how-to guides might be best for you to actually try out, or what's the mindset you need getting into this industry. The book really starts out just talking about the real estate investing industry as a whole and what the different characteristics of it are, because it is a really unique industry and there's a lot of really unique characteristics, which in a lot of ways are phenomenal. You don't have to have a college degree. You don't even have to be a high school graduate to be in this industry. You don't even have to have a good resume. You don't even have to have a good personality. How cool is that? But, for people who like certain levels of maybe structure, or they don't want to be so independent, or they don't want to have to do so much creative problem solving, maybe it's not the industry. So that's, where we're starting is let's really introduce you to the industry, let you kind of understand how it works. And then let's go further. What are your strengths? Let's help you navigate the process of figuring out what strategy might actually work for you. Because I feel like if you start in a strategy that's better suited to you than just what everyone's like, go flip properties. Well, great for some people, but super misleading for the people that's not good for. So let's look at different strategies so you can kind of get a feel for picking one that is better suited to you. So therefore, you have a better chance of success. And then what are the steps to kind of get through that? And then, like I said, the investor interviews for that, to further that exact reason, is to give you a better perspective. Would you actually like the life of a wholesaler, or would you actually like landlording rental properties? I don't know, but here's some information to help you decide. So like I said, my whole motivation with this was to really take that step back and try to give people a better start to help increase their chances of succeeding once they get into all those how-to guides.
I love that. And that with my coursework too, it's that exact same process. I think that's why you are so well aligned, is that everybody's watching HGTV and it's sexy. This is what can happen.
It's sexy.
It is sexy, right? Or you're online, you're like, oh, you can wholesale, no money down. Look at what can happen. You can make all these millions of dollars. It's well, yeah. For some people that works.
Yes.
In the HGTV kind of world, none of that
Yeah.
happens there actually happens in real life, just so you
Yeah.
know. But flipping, there are people that are successful at flipping. There are people that are
Totally.
successful at wholesaling. There are
Totally.
people that who are successful at Burr. You know, there's a lot of success opportunities.
Yep.
But it's really important to figure out who you are first, because
Yeah.
like you say, and like I've been saying for years, right? If you start with the strategy that's best suited to you, your goals, your
Mhm.
resources, your personality, what you love, what you don't, how much time you've got, all of those things, you're much more likely to stick with it. You're
Yep.
much more likely to make it through the challenges, because every business has its challenges, and you're much
Mhm.
more likely to experience great success.
I think it's not, I mean, I'd say it's not even a more likely. It's like that's the only way it's going to work. Like, because, I could choose a strategy that's not well suited to me, but I'm not going to enjoy my life while I'm doing it. And in my opinion, I don't think there's any way to be as successful doing that as I could be doing a strategy that is suited to my strengths, my interests, my whatever. Like, I think strengths and interests go hand in hand. Like, how many of us are really good at doing things we hate, or like really terrible at doing that? We don't usually love the things we're terrible at. So if you can join those two things, and I love what you say about like sticking with it through the challenges. For me, that rings true about entrepreneurship. Like, entrepreneurship is hell on wheels. And like, this whole time that I've been doing it, if I weren't like so desperate for what it gets me, I would have quit a long time ago, because it's not easy. And real estate investing really is, in a way, entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, just like you say, there's going to be challenges. So, if you're hating what you're doing and you're not succeeding terribly great with it, what's going to happen when you get challenged? Well, you're going to quit, and then you're going to be mad at real estate investing and jaded. And we're like, no, no, no. Like, oh. And truly, like, I care so much about people's experience. Like, that crushes me if that happens to somebody. It's like, oh, because I get where they're coming from. I'd probably be traumatized from it too and never come back. But it's like, I don't want someone to give up unnecessarily when there might be a perfectly good strategy there. And like, one thing you and I always talk about is we have different strategies. You landlord your own properties, I use property managers. And what I love about us doing different strategies is, while they're different strategies, we're also doing exactly the same thing, which is working to our strengths and working in what comes natural to us. And then both of us have succeeded with that. I don't care what strategy someone else does. Like, as long as everyone's working to their strengths and doing something meant for them, that makes me happy. It's just when people, and people, we don't know what we don't know, which is
Mhm.
100% true for real estate investing. So how do you know what strategy is for you? Chances are you're not. So, that's part of the motivation too, is like, help you figure that out before you lose a ton of money doing something that someone told you should do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I want to back up just a little bit to the place where we talk about getting bitter, or never
Yeah.
wanting to, like things went badly, never wanting to get on that horse again, right? What they
Yeah.
say, like if you fall off the horse, you have to get back on and ride. And I think that what happens in real estate is, if you've tried a few things and they haven't worked,
Yep.
you just sort of like, it's never going to work. And so that's
Hmm.
exactly why a book like this is relevant, because it's
Yeah.
not, I always say there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. If there are a million ways and you've tried three or one, like that's not even, what is that point percent? Like it's like there's there's a million opportunities, right?
And the good news is, you probably don't have to try
That many.
999,000 for, like, you'll probably get it on like 3 or 4.
That's right.
It's like,
Well,
and
and if you
part of like looking at these things, it's like, how can you get there faster? Because like, if you read this whole book, the idea is to get you closer to figuring that strategy out. It
that's
may
right.
not be, it may not get you right there. Like, I think you and I have talked, like, how you did things in the past with your strategy is slightly different than how you do it
It's
now. We all
evolved.
evolve over time,
Yes.
but like, how can we start, how can we put it more in that like 1 to 5 attempts range versus like 50 attempts range? Because chances are you're not going to stick around to have successful number 50. It's like, how
That's
do we really narrow it down to what seems like it might be the right thing for you?
Right. And what I also think is interesting is so that's very, very true, right? Like we want to make sure that we pick a strategy that's aligned with us. They're probably going to be 3 or 4. And so you can try 3 or 4. Maybe you'll hit it on the first one. Maybe you kind of comb the others in. Like for me, I'm a Burr person with executive properties. But yes, I have wholesaled. Yes, I have
Mm-hmm.
flipped. Yes, I have done construction. Yes, I've done those things. But it happened as sort of par for the course without me looking for it
Yeah.
while I was doing my main business, right? And
Yep.
it keeps it interesting and spicy and whatever, but the main business is where I make my money,
Yep.
right? So, but the other thing that I want to say is we've had people on this show that built massively successful businesses and then lost everything like in
Yeah.
2007, 2008, or because they went through a divorce and their spouse took everything, or for whatever reason, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of reasons that people see failure. And it's not necessarily because the strategy was bad,
Right.
but because something happened and they weren't prepared to how to deal with it. And there's so many people that would be in that situation and be like, I'm out, I'm done.
Yeah.
But the people that are on this show are the people that are like, I am not going to let this defeat me. I know there's a
Yeah.
way for me to have success, and I love real estate enough to pursue. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different reasons for success in this business, and there's a lot of different reasons for failure. But I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing to remember is who you are is the most important factor in your
Yeah.
success in this business.
And I love what you just said. So I don't even think I told you this. I've started more recently offering coaching, and
Mm.
I've kind of done it on the side. I just never publicly offered it. So now I'm doing more coaching, mostly because we're all still stuck at home. It's 2020. It's like, oh well, we can hop on some Zoom. Let's see if I can help some people on Zoom. But I was actually working with a coaching client recently, and she had, in kind of one of her initial kind of information types of things, she made the statement. She said, "I don't want to be a good investor. I want to be a great investor."
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that line, I highlighted it because I was like, oh, what a great line. And I asked her, what does a great investor to you mean? Because I feel like a lot of people would you say, oh, well, if I've made $2 million, like put a financial whatever on it. And I told her, I was like, when I read that line, it jumped out at me so much. And I was thinking, like, why is this in my thoughts? Like what to me is a great investor? And it's exactly what you just talked about is I don't think whether you're a good or great investor has anything to do with how much you're making. But to me, if you want to be considered a great investor, you pick yourself back up when something happens because something's always going to happen, whether it's, your own oopsie, you didn't know what you were doing or whatever, or like you said, everything's going along great and all of a sudden the bottom falls out of the world. And I mean, 2020 or 2008, like things happen and that's not
2001.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
nothing that you personally really could have done for, there's some mitigation strategies, whatever, but like some things just aren't your fault. And it's not about who's at fault. It's even if you made the dumbest mistake on the planet, it's not your fault. It's more of like to be that great investor, you pick yourself up and keep going or you adjust. So in 2008, what did all the successful people do? They adjusted. They didn't quit. It sucked 100% in the moment, but they adjusted. It's like, ooh, got kicked down, brush the dirt off. Okay, how are we going to do this? Same with entrepreneurship. Like things happen. You have to adjust course. 2020, the pandemic happens. Well, we're all stuck at home now. How are we going to? Yeah, it's been so cool to watch I watch Shark Tank all the time, like hearing how the entrepreneurs have switched modes because it's like, whoop, stuck at home now. What am I going to do? And I've seen so many people adjust course and come out way
So
better
far
off.
ahead.
Like
Yeah.
so cool. So when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, it's the great investor. I had this whole conversation with my coaching client of like this, I just want to be really clear what I see as a great investor is it's not about what you buy or what you invest in or what your returns are or whatever. Do you keep getting up when you get knocked down? And if you do, you are great in my opinion, because if you keep doing that, there's no way you're not going to succeed, period.
Right. Well, and then the other piece about that is there is something incredibly fulfilling about not allowing yourself to be defeated.
Oh yeah.
Right. And
Like
so much of like what we talk about with bliss, right, is how do you feel about yourself? We each define success differently, right? And a lot of times, especially when you're looking for a blissful life, that success isn't defined by money.
yeah.
Money helps, right? It creates a foundation for a lot of really blissful things, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the big end result. The big end result is, how do you feel in your life most of the time? And so I think that when we really look at success that way, you can look at real estate and your strategy in a very different way too.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of want to tell a little story. I do these journals on starting something new, because I've started some new projects, some really amazing ones. Actually, you can listen to this so you can find out what's going on. We can chat about it. But so I released this in Thanksgiving of 2020. I went on vacation, and 4 projects came to a head 2 to 4 days before I left. One I had been working on for 9 years. 9 years. One for 3 years, one for 6 months, and one for 3 months. And they all, I had to-dos, and everything came like I had to do it right then, just a few days before vacation. And we were laughing, my husband and I, because we were like, I need to go on vacation more often. But what was so funny about that is there was all this urgency before I left.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the day that I was leaving, I left on Tuesday morning. My flight was at 8:30. And I texted everybody on Monday night. I said, I'm out. You guys need to manage it. I'm only gone for 10 days. So handle it. And what was awesome is I came back and it was handled. Everything had been moved to the next step. And for me, that is success. So I can actually go on vacation and have a vacation.
Yeah.
But how are we defining success? And then how does real estate fit into that, right?
Well, that's actually a really cool segue into one of the chapters of the book, if you remember, the one that's called The 3 True Currencies.
Yes.
And I have this theory that there are actually 3 currencies that we're all using at all times in exchange to get something. So the first one is money. We all know that. But the second one and the third one that I feel like people aren't talking about as much are time and sanity. So if you think about it, anytime you want to get something, whether it's a service or a product or an investment, whatever, you are paying for that thing in one or more of those currencies. And when you can really kind of step back and look at the value of each of those currencies for you, it can change everything. So for me, my most important currency is sanity. And, you're talking about like, for some people it's monetary success. Well, what's my definition of success? Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not anything that involves me losing my sanity. Like if my sanity is not at peak and like intact and I'm happy, to me, nothing else is successful. Like if I'm not happy, I'm not successful. If I'm successful, I'm happy. And so like anytime I'm going to go get something or do something or whatever, I look at that. In some scenarios, we were talking about putting this book out. Usually I'm not a fan of sacrificing my time and sanity at all. I'm much more apt to pay someone to let them do it. They're going to do it better than I do anyways. And if it means I get to keep my time and sanity, I do that. When I went to put the book out, I actually kind of wanted to go through the experience because I had never been through it before. I lost all sorts of time and sanity. But in that case, I did it purposefully. I didn't do it because I thought I had to be doing it. And so like even I use the currencies all the time as if I want to hire a housekeeper, is it more important to keep my time and sanity in that case? Or do I want to save the money of, how much does the housekeeper cost? Or, little things. And so exactly what you're talking about is this definition of success and how are you doing things? So like what you described about going on vacation, you might have been able to do all sorts of things with all those projects in 10 days, but ultimately, is that what matters? No. That 10-day vacation mattered. And it's like, there's always gonna be a balance, but I feel like when people, it's honestly my favorite chapter in the book for exactly what you just described, because when people really kind of put this stuff in context, it can literally change everything. If I don't want to laugh, I don't want to say I laugh, but I laugh a little when someone has a full-time job and a family with 5 kids and they say they want a wholesale. And I'm like,
where are you going to find the time?
Yeah. When are you going to do that exactly? Like someone in that case, I would assume that time is your most valuable currency. Mm-hmm. And so, how is wholesaling, which is the most active strategy on the planet, going to fit into them? Like, do you though? Mm-hmm. And like, you might want to find a more passive strategy unless you just hate your family and hate your job. But like, so it's that when you can, it's so simple, but it changes every decision I've ever made, because like flipping properties, I think that's one of the examples I use in the book. My sanity would be so far in the toilet. I don't care how much money I was making. And so, and like turnkey rental properties, I'm going to pay more for those than I would if I did a burr or whatever. But for me, I keep my time and sanity most of the time. Time and sanity. So,
well, and that's
let's
a
not call
really,
it
really
perfection
good point. No, yeah.
here.
Well, I mean, there is truth, right? Like we get to live in that space as best we can. We need to make
Yep.
it a priority, but things happen. Life happens. Our
Yep.
priorities shift for short periods of time. Things happen. It was interesting because when I was really thinking, so I've been trying to refinance my primary residence. Lenders are going crazy because of all the stuff that the feds are going through and are putting them through, right? We don't know that on the front end unless you're on the back end. And I have a lot of mortgage friends. So I know what they're going through. And it took 6 months for me to get a primary residence refinance through.
Yep.
And they want me to sign while I'm on vacation or I'm going to lose the lock. And the lender has not finished the undersigning. Like they haven't even finished the documentation. It hasn't gone to title. Like they're not done. They're going to get done the day before the lock ends. The day. I've been sitting here for 6 months and this, right? And I just basically told my broker, no. You're not going to disturb my vacation. And he says, well, I can send somebody to you to sign where you are. And I was like, fine, call me. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I am not going to lose my lock.
Yeah.
And he's like, Moneeka, there's nothing I can do about it. And I was like, well, we're going to do something about it. I just waited here for 6 months, Anyway, we're really, really good friends. He knows I dig my heels in not to argue with me.
Yeah.
But it was funny.
I can picture you. Dig your heels in the sand.
But it was funny. So I did call him. I did call him from the airport and I'm like, okay, Jerry, so what's the deal? He said, we're going to get the lock extended and I will cover whatever the cost is. Well, as it turns out, the lender didn't charge for the extended lock. So guess what? I didn't work on vacation. But the point is, like, that's a priority.
We all hate mortgage loans. Oh, wait. What's your point? even hearing you say it, I'm like, God, if there was one thing, I don't know if I could possibly hate the mortgage process more. Like, they're like, hey, we need your left arm, your firstborn child. Okay, well, now that you already gave those to us, can you give those to us again? I'm like, but I already gave them to you. And they're like, well, we need them again.
I'm like, I don't have another right arm. I don't have.
You already have it. It's on your desk.
I need it back.
Fine. Let me fire up. God, it's bad. It
is bad. Well, and it's really hard right now too, because they're trying to be conscious and caring for people that are suffering, but the Fed's not giving them a break.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a nightmare. It's not the compassion doesn't go all the way to the top. I can't believe I just called banks compassionate, but you know what I mean?
I'm like, wait, where does
what are you saying?
Go to?
Yeah.
I'm like, was there any layer?
Yeah. But if you look at sort of what they're willing to do, and the Fed's not really willing to support them. So they're putting demands on them and then not supporting them. So it's just a really bad situation.
All while they're swamped because rates are so low. Everybody, I know a lot of the lenders I work with have now had to push back the refis and just say, we're just doing primaries right now. Refis are on the back burner.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. None of my, at the time, I don't know, because we're going to release this in a little while, but at the time I wasn't able to get any of my non-owners refied. Yeah. So, but it doesn't, whatever. But the point is simply that sometimes we have to just kind of set our boundaries, and this is what my life needs to look like, and how much is enough. And for me, how much is enough, it really has to do with how do I feel rather than how much money is in the bank, how much, cash flow I've got, all of those things. Those things are important, but they don't have to happen yesterday.
Yeah.
It can happen at the pace that keeps me blissful.
Well, and I think it's so important too to really kind of sit back, because how many of us or how many people out there actually want the money? I don't really know anyone who actually wants the money, because when we want the money, we actually want the thing or something that the money gets us. Mm-hmm. So I actually was talking to someone recently, and I don't know how I never heard this before, but it was so amazing. He was like, the funny thing about financial freedom, which is what everyone wants, is if you think about it, it's actually time freedom.
It's time freedom.
And I was like, oh my God, like here I am like preaching these things for years. I'm like, how come I never thought it? Like it is, because You get to do what you want to do. It's like you're retired. You get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. That's what financial freedom gets you. So people think it's about the dollars, and it's not. So I remember I use the example in the book, and I've said it so many times. I remember being 13 years old, and I woke up one day and I was like, I want to be a gazillionaire. And it wasn't for pretentious reasons. It was more of like a personal challenge. And I love myself, and I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And like, that'll be so great. And over the years, I mean, the biggest year being the first year of entrepreneurship, when I was more broke than I'd ever been in my whole life. And I told people, I was like, I've never been more broke in my life, but I've also never been happier. And it's like, wait a minute, how is that possible? And so it turns out being a gazillionaire isn't what is most important to me, because I assumed being a gazillionaire would get me certain things, which, yeah, there's certain things it absolutely does get me. But I would rather make less money and be happier and live the lifestyle I want to and have time freedom and all that kind of stuff. If I have that, like it's taking the focus off the numbers, because I think we've all gotten distracted into thinking it's about the numbers. But when you actually think about what it is the number gets you, it can kind of also change your course. Again, the three currencies, money, time, sanity, chances are it's not all about the money. It might be in some cases like, oh, well, I definitely want to save the money in this case, so I'm going to, sacrifice a little time and sanity or whatever.
And when you're poor, it's about the money. I mean, I will say this, like, there is a point to which money does buy you happiness.
There is a baseline.
There is a baseline.
You are correct, right, my friend.
Yeah. There is a baseline. And I don't want to tiptoe around that. Like, if you're poor, it is about the money, because the money feeds you. The money allows you and your children to sleep, right? It allows you to get clothes so you can actually go to work, right? So there is a baseline. But
even if it's not a baseline, like, think of like a parent, like, if they need to, financially contribute to their family, to put food on the table, roof over their head, and parents just in general are going to sacrifice time and sanity. So yeah, you're right. It's not like a closeted, blanketed statement of everyone should focus on what's most important, because you may not have that option. But, that does go into the individual analysis of it, of, given your situation, which currency needs to be the most important. If you have the luxury of choosing which one you want to be more important, great. But if there is a need in there somewhere, like, as an entrepreneur again, and I say entrepreneur, it applies to investing too. There have been times where I've needed to sacrifice my time and sanity because I either didn't have the money or I needed to get the money, or, so it is, I like that clarification, actually, to say that it's not just about which one we want, it's which one we either need or, what's most applicable to that situation. I think that's phenomenal clarification.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that's so true in every part of our life, not just
Totally.
in our business, not just in entrepreneurship, but in every area of our life. Right. So we just kind of launched and we're already out of time.
I don't know. We had some pretty good things though, I think.
Ladies, so we actually do have an extra. So in the book, there's all of this amazing insights from Ali. And then there are 5 interviews. 6 interviews.
Oh, 5 interviews.
Yeah.
God.
Anyways, there's several interviews with actual investors, myself included.
6 with
6.
myself included.
Okay, good.
No, I'm sorry. 5.
They're good interviews.
Like, did she write her own book, or like there are 5 interviews?
Yeah, good. So, and I'm in there too, so sort of talking about the way that I do things. So, so that it's a great book, and Ali has said that she is going to give all of you a copy for free. How can they get that?
So my company is Hipster Investments. So if you go to hipsterinvestments.com/bliss, you can get a free digital copy of the book there. If you're like me and you have to have a paper book, something in your hands, there's a link on there to the Amazon link for the book where you can get it there also. Or if you just want to gift it out to friends or family or whatever. But I'd love for you to check out the free digital copy. I'd love to hear feedback. And the only thing I ask is, as a brand new author, every review I can possibly get counts. So like, if you check out the book and you like it or you don't like it, whatever, like, I would love an Amazon review from you. But have fun with it, enjoy it. I hope it helps you in some way. And you get to check out Moneeka, like, hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Like, oh man, it's so good. I love that interview.
I did too. It was really fun. So yeah, so definitely, and the link will be in the show notes, but it's Hipster Investments, plural.
Yep.
realestate.com/bliss.
Yep.
So you can get that there. And then, and in extra, we're going to be talking about at the very end of the chapter, or the book, she lists 6 steps to get started in the
It's actually a how-to guide.
Is it? Not
Another
how-to.
spoiler.
How-to
It's
guide.
not a how-to guide. No, it's not. It's not. Okay, there's a how-to guide in there.
So we're going to kind of do a little breakdown of that in extra. So stay tuned for that. But before we do that, are you ready for our 3 rapid fire questions?
Oh, I feel like I'm never ready for these, but I'm ready.
So Ali, tell us one super tip on getting started investing in real estate.
Read Not Your How-To Guide to Real Estate Investing, Life Lessons on Hacking Your Mind Before You Hack Your Wallet. What a great opportunity to self-promote. But
It was subtle.
Super subtle.
That's funny.
But I will say, other than a totally self-serving answer, my whole goal with the book was to and plenty of experienced investors have read it, and I want to help them also, but I really focused it on people getting started. So yeah, that's the non-self-serving part, is I actually hope and think that it can help you.
Awesome. And then what is one strategy on being successful in real estate? So this is more for people that are in it, right? They're already doing the thing.
I mean, if you're already in it, you already know this, and we said it earlier, you got to keep picking yourself back up. And I'm one of the first ones to admit being guilty in this department, because it's probably quarterly I have to have a mentor pick me back up. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. No more. I even when we got on the call earlier, I was like, I hate this industry. I mean, it's natural. And I think no matter how tempting it is to just quit and pack your bags and go do something easier, just stick with it. I mean, that's how you're going to be successful for sure.
Yeah. Love
that is mostly advice to myself. Another self-serving answer.
Yeah. And actually that's interesting, right? Because Ali is very successful and we all have this, all of us, I have the same thing. So yes, really, really good advice. Okay. And what is one daily practice that you would say, Ali, that contributes to your personal success?
This is going to sound so lazy. It's taking time off. I've some people have known me to say this, like sometimes I wake up and I have my coffee and I'm like, meh, I don't really want to start working yet. I'm going to watch an episode of my soap opera. And a lot of people in a corporate job or whatever may not have that luxury to or care about soap operas like I do. But, it's that idea of we're in a society now where it's like, go, 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 go. You got to do, never take some time. Sometimes you just need a day off with a Netflix binge. To me, it's one of the most important things because I can hit it hard for so long, but I've always allowed myself and not felt guilty for it of, you just got to take some downtime. And if that's just an episode of one of your favorite shows, or if it's like go play with the dog or go spend some extra time with your kids, like it sounds counterintuitive, but I think if you just keep going all the time, it's like what they say about going to the gym, like you have to give your body a break. And so, I think that's one of the messages that's kind of gotten lost in our society and don't feel guilty about it. That's the big thing. Like people do it all the time, but they're like, oh, I feel so guilty. Don't. You have to take care of yourself. I think it's on the daily, whatever that looks like, do something that brings you some level of bliss. I usually say joy, but we're talking to you. So bliss, do something blissful, even if it's the smallest thing, they can make the biggest difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that because your brain, they've actually done clinical studies on this, that brains without rest just don't perform at the same level.
Yeah.
So if you're a very high performer, you're still going to perform better than a lot of people, but you're not performing at your best.
Yep.
And
think you could perform even better.
Better. And you perform better and you're happier. Whoa, that's cool, right?
Get out of here.
But you do need rest. Our bodies do need rest. Our minds need rest. That's why when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. That's the way it goes.
I love being the promoter of take a vacation.
Yeah.
Go watch a soap opera. Don't work.
Yeah. I do have a chapter in Choose Bliss called Play is the Way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about
play.
Just play and relax and engage the parts of you that feel good so you can take that into the rest of your life.
Again, it goes back to that theory of it's probably not about the money, even when you think it's about the money. It's about happiness, I would assume, whatever brings you that happiness. So if you're missing out on all the happiness along the way to get the money, aren't you kind of missing the boat a little?
Yeah. Why not just go to the end result?
Exactly.
Take the whole
Do you know
path.
what's that short story? I can't even really quote it, about the fisherman. I don't know if he was like in Central America or something, but a guy who went out every day fishing in like a third world country or something and fished for his family, got the fish, whatever. And this big high-end ritzy dude from the States went down there and met this fisherman. He's like, oh, well, why won't you? And he proposed all these different things about how to be more successful. And the
Mhm.
fisherman was like, well, why would I do that? And he's like, well, so then you can retire. And he's like, well, why, what would I do when I retire? And he's like, whatever you want to do. And he's like fish? And like, oh, like here's this guy trying to convince him to go through all of this hell to get back exactly where he was. And it's such a more nice sounding like philosophy story type of thing. I can't even say it back, but it's so true. It's like, well, if we're not living that now, why do we think we're going to get there later? We're not. Like, live it now.
Live it now, because you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And
absolutely.
I think if 2020 has taught us nothing else, I mean, we've probably been learning this for decades at this point, but especially 2020, we're not guaranteed anything. So if you're not enjoying right now, like how long do you think you have exactly?
Mhm.
Oh, that sounded a little dark, but that's not what
Well, but I mean, how
came out
long-
darker than I meant
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
you know,
And
like
yeah.
we're not guaranteed tomorrow. I mean, it sounds cliche, but we're really not. And 2020 really proved that to us.
Mhm.
And you know, you gotta, if you're not enjoying the journey, what's the point?
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Sometimes that's very hard to say in real estate investing. It's like, oh, I hate this thing.
I know.
But again, you know,
but there's still a
ups and
reason you're
downs.
doing it. Yeah,
Yep.
There's still a reason you're doing it. So
Yeah. It's like that year I said I've never been more broke, but I've never been happier. I had also never been more stressed than I was that year, but it was a different kind of stress because it was
it was
on
a fun
top of
stress.
most of I'm like, ooh, the hairs on the back of my neck just stood
I
up.
don't know. Yeah.
But it was like blanketed on top of something that brought me a lot of joy. Like I was still making my own schedule. I was working as late as I wanted to and sleeping in what, you know, like it was on top of the joy. And so if you're missing that joy component or that bliss component, you know, it might be worth looking at how you're doing things and maybe readjusting a little.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. That was a really good short rapid fire answer. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you know how we are. We're like super short to the point. Like we can barely fill the time. Please, who do you think you're talking to?
I love that.
Like if you don't I keep pointing my blue highlighter. If you don't stop me, you know I'll keep talking.
Well, we do get to keep talking in extra, so I'm super excited about that. We're going to be doing the 6 steps to get started in the least risky way, so that's going to be really, really fun.
And that's to get started really in anything. It doesn't even have to be real estate investing. Like these 6 steps can get you basically anything you want, in my opinion.
I love that. Cool. So we're looking forward to that. So ladies, so first of all, Ali, thank you for all that you've offered in this portion of the show. I know the ladies are going to want to get the book because you're just so much fun and so down to earth. So yay, that was great. Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
And ladies, stay tuned for extra. We're going to be talking about the 6 steps to get started in the least risky, terrifying way.
Extra, read all about
That's
it.
right. So if you're subscribed to Extra, stay tuned. If you're not, but would like to be, go to realestateinvestingforwomenextra.com. You know, you get the first 7 days for free. So you can download a ton of episodes, get a lot of really good content, and then decide if it's for you or not. But go to realestateinvestingforwomenextra.com. For those of you that are leaving Ali and I right now, thank you so much for joining us.
Sign up for Extra. Come back.
We'll miss you.
We'll notice if you're not there.
But I am looking forward to seeing you next time in either case. So until then, remember, goals without action are just dreams. So get out there, take action, and create the life your heart deeply desires. I'll see you soon. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to find out more about how to become a blissful millionaire, go to blissfulinvestor.com. See you next time.